He pushed with all his strength and sent the creatures flying. Ouch! How can he be so strong when he's so small? Some of the large creatures were surprised that Jinwoo was stronger than they were. One of them calmly moved and tried to crush him like an insect. Roar! Jinwoo shouted and released a lot of energy. The creature was surprised when its hand was pushed back and didn't see the black fist coming toward it. Boom! Jinwoo focused all his dark energy into his right arm, making it as big as one of the creature's arms. Then he knocked the creature's head right off. Jinwoo covered himself in a dark energy, making him grow bigger, and then powerfully attacked the titans. With his shadow creatures rushing forward like hungry animals, and the titans made of stone, the battle didn't last long. In the middle of the titans that had fallen to their knees, stood a huge shadow, tearing a titan's arm off, and crushing it into dust. Crack! The titans around Jinwoo were surprised by his strength and stepped back. Jinwoo looked at them, wondering why they had stopped, when a titan bigger and stronger than the others came closer. But the voice came from a small creature sitting on the titan's shoulder. I notice even this small world far away has good things. It was a little person who looked like the big rock creatures. But getting bigger to become more powerful shows your people are still wild. Actually, the titan said, we get smaller when we use our real strength. It chuckled, pointing at itself. Of course, only really strong fighters like me can do that. Jinwoo didn't seem impressed as he listened. He quickly turned his head. A bright flash. Just in time, Jinwoo moved away from a beam of red light that came from behind him. The light immediately destroyed the strongest warrior of the titans. The red light came from Bellion, who was very scared and riding an old dragon. Oh no! Were you talking to it, my lord? Jinwoo waved his hand to show that everything was alright. These men were very proud, so I will let you handle them. Please leave it to me, my lord. Bellion lowered his head and flew away. Jinwoo looked at the titans again. He had already defeated many of them, and the rest were being attacked by a dark wave of shadow soldiers. Arg! Krak! The screams of the rock giants filled the desert. Silence. The room felt very still. It was so quiet. It felt like everyone had stopped moving. The President of the United States had trouble finding the right words after seeing the video. That man, do you know who he is? The general asked, shaking his head. This amazing person had easily defeated the scary creatures, saving the United States without anyone even realizing it. He probably saved the whole world, actually. But a power that strong could also cause a lot of damage. The president decided finding out who this mysterious man was very important. Is there any way to discover who this man in the video is? Although people offered some ideas, most thought it would be impossible to find out his identity. It couldn't really happen. That's what David Brannon, the head of the Central Intelligence Agency, said. He really stressed the word really. The president looked at Mr. Brannon. What do you mean? The director spoke carefully. If something can't happen in the real world, what about trying something that isn't realistic? The others looked confused, so Mr. Brannon smiled. There is a way. Someone has shared information that couldn't have been found out through normal means. Could this person be referring to a woman everyone in the country knows? She had a special connection with a government agency, and many people were aware of it. The president looked surprised. Are you saying? Director Brannon nodded with confidence.
Yes, Mrs. Norma Selner. I am sure she will once again know what we need to find. A dark car slowed down as it drove up to a neat house with a red roof in a quiet neighborhood.
Director Brannon, a leader with the CIA, and two co-workers got out of the car. He looked at the house and told them what to do. You two stay here. Director Brannon, the co-workers were worried about following the order. Their job was to keep him safe, but the director was sure he would be okay. It's alright. It's alright. Brannon told them to wait. Mrs. Selner prefers to keep things calm and quiet. The director told his co-workers to wait by the car, and he walked to the house by himself. He quickly fixed his clothes and then carefully knocked on the door. Mrs. Selner, it's me. It's Dom. Before he could finish speaking, a child opened the door. Director Brannon noticed Mrs. Selner's grandson and knelt down to talk to him. He gently patted the boy on the head. Is your grandmother home? She has been waiting for you, Mr. Mustache. The boy pointed at him, and Brannon laughed. Of course she had been waiting. She had a special gift for seeing the future. People called her a psychic, a prophet, or someone with extraordinary mental abilities, and many believed she was the best at telling fortunes in the world. Brannon didn't always believe in her powers, but after seeing her solve mysteries that even the most skilled detectives couldn't figure out, He realized he had to. She was truly amazing. A person with incredible abilities. It seemed easier for Mrs. Sellner to know when someone was coming over than it was for her to change the TV channel. Brannon followed the child into the living room and said hello as she set her cup of tea on the table. It has been a long time, Mrs. Sellner. Welcome, Dave. It had been almost a year since his last visit, but the living room looked the same. He carefully sat down on the couch. You probably don't realize how difficult our work has been since you stopped working, Mrs. Sellner. While information from the past could be helpful, it wasn't as important as knowing what would happen next. Losing Mrs. Sellner was a big disappointment for the CIA. The director tried to sound cheerful, but he was clearly sad. She was leaving. Mrs. Sellner spoke to him like he was a young child complaining about something small. I told you, Dave. I haven't been able to see the future since he came to visit. Oh, was she talking about the god of death again? Brannon was annoyed because she had said this same thing many times before. She told him she could no longer use her abilities because a strong new force had appeared in the world. Director Brannon didn't understand why she would stop working with the CIA. He couldn't imagine why she would quit. An uncomfortable silence settled between them. A delicious smell filled the room, and the director tried to lighten the mood. Were you eating something, Mrs. Sellner? Mrs. Sellner shook her head. I actually have another visitor. Oh really? It was surprising because Mrs. Sellner didn't usually like having guests. Brannon decided to get straight to the point and stopped smiling. I'll get right to the reason I'm here, so I don't waste your time. Mrs. Sellner knew exactly what he was going to say. I say yes to your first question and no to your second. Wait, Mrs. Sellner smiled at the surprised director. Are you wondering how I knew what you would ask? Even though I can't see the future anymore. Yes, you picked those questions earlier, Dave. I figured out the answers by thinking about what happened before.
Oh, Brannon quietly groaned and nodded.
Should I explain more now? The director took out a handkerchief and wiped his forehead. Please do, Mrs. Sellner. Yes, Dave. I do know who you are looking for. She said yes to his first question. But she said no to his second question. She also said she wouldn't tell him anything about the man. Mrs. Sellner, the director said, his voice getting louder because he was frustrated. I'm sure you know what that man did. We can't just let him go without consequences. Mrs. Sellner was quick to speak, and a little sharp. That is exactly why I won't tell you. This had never happened before. Director Brannon didn't know what to do when he saw her get angry. Mrs. Sellner wasn't finished. Are your eyes just for show? Excuse me. Director Brannon asked, surprised. Didn't you see the video on the flash drive? Director Brannon stayed quiet. He had clearly seen the man stand up to the scary monsters, all by himself. The man had incredible power, and he had saved everyone. Mrs. Sellner asked a strange question. What if I told you this has happened before? Mrs. Sellner seemed very serious, so Brannon was shocked. Had this really happened before? The idea that people hadn't known they were almost wiped out made him feel cold and scared. When he considered it, he understood that only a few people working for the United States government knew about this event. It was certainly possible something similar had happened in other parts of the world without anyone knowing. He might be right, as she said. Director Brannon rubbed his chin as he thought carefully. I trust you, Mrs. Sellner. Brannon had known her for about 3 years, but it felt like much longer. He had a strong belief in her, and he couldn't really explain why. When she nodded, he carefully asked another question. The man in the video, can you promise he isn't dangerous? She answered right away. I promise. The director nodded slowly and made a decision. Okay, I will act like you don't know that man. With a slightly sad look on his face, Brannon stood up from his seat. All right then, he said goodbye and turned to leave, but Mrs. Sellner's kind voice made Dave pause. Dave, I made some cookies. Would you like one to take with you? Looking at the cookies she offered, the director politely said no, with a smile.
No, thank you, Mrs. Sellner.
With the important stuff finished, Brannon seemed more comfortable. Mrs. Sellner smiled at him and asked her grandson to show him out. She liked Mr. Mustache very much. So the boy quickly came and took Brannon's hand. I'll see you later, Mrs. Sellner. Goodbye, Dave. The director let the boy lead him outside. Selner's grandson, the guest hiding in the living room, walked back into the room. I don't like that old man. Grandma, do you want me to handle him? The tall man with neatly combed blonde hair grabbed a handful of cookies from the bag Brandon didn't want, and quickly ate them. If you cause any more problems, you'll be kicked out of the league. Won't you, Thomas? Thomas laughed a little nervously and chewed his cookies. Crunch, crunch. Well, it was Thomas Andre, a champion fighter, and a friend of Mrs. Selner didn't have many friends, but most people didn't know that. If reporters found out, they would have a lot to say about it. Thomas felt very comfortable in Mrs. Selner's house, like he was visiting a relative. Even after he finished the cookies, he grabbed the bag to get all the crumbs. Grandma, can I ask you a question? Selner smiled and nodded at Thomas. Thomas squeezed the empty bag into a ball. Many people die in accidents. A lot of those accidents happened with cars, but not for people who got a call from Mrs. Selner. Thomas had finally had a day off and wanted to drive his favorite car. He was glad he got a call from her first. He looked at his tires and saw a nail stuck in one of them. If she hadn't warned him, he probably would have been in a serious car accident. Mrs. Selner really saved him that day. They became good friends and started having meals together like this one. But one thing had always puzzled him. Why did you save me? It wasn't that she had wanted to rescue him, because she liked watching fighting. Thomas had always wondered why Mrs. Selner had called him in the first place. He waited. She looked at his face for a moment before she finally answered. It's because you did many good things in your past life. I did. Thomas Andre was known as a troublemaker, or even someone difficult in the world of fighting. He thought for a moment, if the woman was not feeling well, but he didn't say anything, because he was grateful to her. Haha. Mrs. Selner chuckled and looked out the window at the director getting into his car. Her grandson waved until the car was out of sight. Mrs. Selner thought it was fate that people they knew from before still appeared in their lives, maybe by chance or maybe not. Once she was sure no one was watching, Thomas sat down on the couch where the director had been sitting just moments before. So what did the man do in the video? Why are people looking for him? Mrs. Selner asked, as if she were talking about everyday things. He saved the world. Thomas wasn't sure if Mrs. Selner was serious. Being around her was always interesting. Thomas put on his sunglasses and asked her another question. So what is the hero who saved the world doing now? Mrs. Selner smiled as she watched her grandson go back inside. Who knows? Maybe he is just enjoying being young. Yes. People cheered loudly at the beginning of the national track and field competition for student athletes. The team captains glared at each other as the two schools met. Hey T-Wong, you really need new runners if you're using freshmen for everything. Kasuk-jo, the captain of the Taekwosung Tech High School track team, made fun of Jin-Woo's team. The two schools had been rivals for a long time. Sangin is taking a break for a few months, and now your team is counting on someone in 7th grade. Taewong playfully bumped Jin-Woo's shoulder while making fun of Kisuk's teasing. This 7th grader is gonna prove you wrong. Pat, you're still funnier than you are good at sports. Jin-Woo felt worried as he watched them argue. They are making it harder for me to stay out of trouble. Kisuk became more confident when he noticed Jin-Woo looked upset. This is a surprising event. He pointed to the people with him and a strong teammate walked to the front. We have a very powerful new member as well. Jin-Woo knew who the new member was and quickly breathed in sharply. What? It seems the new kid is nervous, doesn't it? The other new player was stronger than any student in high school. Kisuk put his hand on the player's shoulder and announced him loudly. This is Chol Kim, a 9th grader and a secret player from Hapwosum Tech High School. A strong feeling suddenly came over Chol and he couldn't think clearly. Why does he feel like? Why did Chol want to bow down to someone his age whom he had just met? He almost messed up right in front of everyone, but he managed to stay steady by tightly locking his legs together. He wiped his sweaty forehead with his hand. Then he realized something. He couldn't believe he was feeling this way about someone in his grade. How else could he explain why he was breathing so quickly, why he looked away and why his legs felt wobbly? But he didn't want to believe it. Really? Chol Kim was very strong for a high school student, and people noticed it even when he was in middle school. So why would he be afraid? It didn't make sense, and he didn't want to admit it was happening. Chol, what's wrong? Are you okay? His older classmates were worried, and Chol answered strongly. I am perfectly fine. That's right. Chul thought everything seemed normal. He nodded, as if trying to believe it himself. He probably just felt lightheaded, because he hadn't eaten much breakfast. To check if he was right, Chul carefully lifted his head, and looked straight at the new student from the other school. He was in good shape for someone starting high school, but still very thin compared to Chul. Chul finally felt calm and smiled. He thought to himself, I can't be scared of someone I could easily knock over with one punch. There's no way I would be. Chul stood up straight, looking confident again. His teammates from Heshwazing Tech High School had been worried when he suddenly seemed upset, but they were glad to see he was okay now. You worried me for a moment there. I didn't know our new teammate could act so well. Chul accepted the encouraging pats from his team, and then looked directly at Jinwoo. That was really embarrassing. Why did I feel so strange when I looked at him? Chul thought about how to respond to the other new student. He wanted to show he was strong and wouldn't be pushed around. The other student was looking at him with a hard stare, so he couldn't ignore it. Hey. Chul made his voice sound deeper and pointed across the field. I need to talk to you, so please come with me. The Hachwasung Tech High School track team cheered on their energetic new member. At the same time, Jinwoo's teammates rushed to stop him from going after Chul. It's against the rules to hurt someone. Jinwoo, stay calm, you can't cause trouble on the day of the competition. Think about helping someone instead. Jinwoo smiled and gently pulled away from their grasp. Don't worry. Everything will be okay. The team looked at him hoping he was telling the truth. Are you certain? You won't do anything, will you? We believe in you, one of them said. We'll keep an eye on things to make sure that Nan leaves on his own. Jinwoo smiled, and nodded to reassure them, then quickly went to find Chul. Kisuk had been watching the whole conversation. He looked like he couldn't believe it as he walked toward them. Are you really doing this? To-wong looked at Kisuk then worriedly watched the way Jinwoo had gone. Don't talk to me right now. I don't feel like it. To-wong had seen how strong and fast Jinwoo was, and he really hoped Chul Kim wouldn't go too far. As Jinwoo walked to the other side, he was curious about what Chul would say. Was Chul remembering things from his past life too? If he was, how would Chul Kim feel about remembering? He used to be Iron, the shadow soldier, but looking at Chul's face, it didn't seem like he did remember. You, Chul glared at him angrily. Do you think you can look down on me just because we're both wearing the same uniform and standing on the field? Even though Chul was angry, Jinwoo couldn't help but smile. It reminded him of when Chul got upset inside the red gate. Chul had bothered him then, but that was all in the past, right? Chul didn't remember that though, and he didn't think Jinwoo's smile was funny at all. You. Chul grabbed Jinwoo's shirt. As he did, shadows around Jinwoo made loud noises. Iron, he's with us again. Welcome back, Iron. Let me handle him, my lord. Bellion, we'll help him learn so this doesn't happen again. It seemed Jinwoo needed to teach the shadow soldiers how to act in normal society. Jinwoo frowned and looked at Chul. Even though Chul started the trouble, Jinwoo didn't want to be angry with him. He remembered Iron, another shadow soldier who had always been loyal, and felt sorry for Chul. Jinwoo wondered if Chul would remember things if they touched. Chul felt uneasy looking into Jinwoo's eyes. What was happening? Usually, Chul would hit anyone who teased him, even if they were competing against each other. Instead of being angry at his enemy, or wanting to get even, Jinwoo felt a strong sadness. He softly took hold of Chul's wrist. As soon as he did, Chul was surprised. Unexpected tears began to flow down Chul's face like rain. His legs felt weak, and he sat down on the ground. Why? Chul looked up at Jinwoo, hoping for an explanation. But Jinwoo could only smile sadly. Even though they were touching, Chul's memories wouldn't come back on their own. Because he hadn't shared those memories before, Jinwoo would have to work to bring those memories back to Chul himself. Jinwoo remembered the people who had shared his memories from the past. President Jin Shulwo and Mrs. Norma Selner. Jinwoo started to leave, thinking Mrs. Selner might remember things from before. Since Chul Kim was no longer the shadow soldier Iron, Jinwoo didn't need to talk to him. But Chul called out to Jinwoo before he could go far. Chul quickly stood up and wiped away his tears. His nose was still red, even though he wasn't crying anymore. As Jinwoo turned around, Chul asked with a shaky voice, "Is this what people call love?" He had never felt so strongly before, and thought this feeling must be love. Jinwoo just stared at him, then sighed deeply. Oh dear. Jinwoo knew he couldn't leave Chul with such a big mistake. As Jinwoo walked closer, Chul's face turned red. Suddenly, with a snap of Jinwoo's fingers, Chul's face relaxed and his eyes became blank. Jinwoo stood in front of him and created false memories in his mind. Okay, so you started a fight with me, but then you learned I was a friend of your father's friend's friend's son, so we are good now. Chul nodded slowly, looking confused, and Jinwoo smiled kindly, as he remembered saying goodbye to the sad iron before using the cup of reincarnation. From now on, you should be well behaved.